These are wines that in many cases I have not tasted, and in only very few cases have the actual members of Cada Bosco been able to assemble to taste on their own. This is absolutely a magical event because for me, being able to share with you my love for Franciacorta, a sparkling wine of Italy that, in my opinion, can compete with the best sparkling wines from around the world. I believe that this is an opportunity for us all to really have a very intimate experience with these wines, whereas we are all amongst a lucky few that will be able to enjoy them. And I can pretty much guarantee you that a tasting like this won't happen again anytime in the near future. It's going to be an absolutely amazing event. I'm here with Maurizio Zanella of Cada Bosco, so we can taste through these wines together.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
First, want to say thank you so much for being so generous to make this happen. It certainly took a concerted effort on both sides to organize this tasting, but the fact that they were willing to open up their cellars to us to make this happen is certainly an amazing thing. As I mentioned, this is the first time I'm tasting a lot of these wines, so we're really going to be experiencing this entire event together. We're going to try to keep it very casual. We do have a little presentation for the beginning because I think it's really important that you understand Franciacorta, how it's different, and why it's so special. And so Maurizio has prepared a presentation for us, if you will.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much to Vinous to give us the opportunity to do something that we have ever done in our history, except in the cellar. But so this is the first time that some of those wines have been disgorged directly 2 months ago for this event. And so we are very proud and, let's say, emotion with Vinous to give us the opportunity to present you something unique. When we speak of noble wine, we speak before of a terroir. So I will introduce you to our region, Franciacorta, just to give you an idea where we are. We are between Como Lake and Garda Lake. And this is how Franciacorta born with the glaciation. So the ice coming down and one retreat leave all the hills that are done mostly with stones. So it's a very stony area. And you are looking at the location where we are between Garda Lake and Como Lake. Just south, Iseo, that is this lake, is the north border of our region. So we are in Lombardy. And one of the most important things is that we are very close with the glaciers that is called Adamello, that is just 30 miles north in the Alps, and give to Franciacorta the big excursion in temperature between night and day that makes that the grapes ripe, but keep the freshness that we need in order to get the pH and the acidity in order to make the wine support two fermentation. The first go from juice to wine, the second to make the bubble inside the bottle. So Franciacorta have different soil, and this is a study from various universities in order to individually inside Franciacorta where are the proper area to plant Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, and a local varietal called Herba Mate that is not yet a reality, is a project for the future. You can see here example of the different soil, so you will see a lot of stone or chalk. So you have, depending on where you are and what plant, what variety you need to plant, you have the opportunity to have all the soil for different varietal. Here you are in a situation where we are 1,600 feet above the sea level, and this is we done in the last year in order to keep the freshness that you need to make wine that they can mature for a long time and keep the consistency of the taste for the future and the freshness. So those are an example of all the soil. You can see on the right side how many stone you can have, and the calcaire, you see the white one in the middle. So you have all the different, and in each soil you have different the rootstock. So depending on the soil, the use of the rootstock for the appropriate soil. This is very important. And if we can go next, those are the varietal. This is a little fast idea of what is Franciacorta. So the vineyard are not too much. It's 7,000 acre total in 19 small villages in the Franciacorta region. And those are the 4 varietal.
If I could interject.
No, you must.
With the Erba Mate, where do these grapes get used most often in the region?
They was coming from our region and Valle Camonica, that is the valley that go up, but they was close to be extincted. We took them back, Cadel Bosco in particular, in the 80 to try to make a wine. And the wine was so acid, the grape have a so big acidity that we stopped. But when I was president of the consortium, I said to the technical office, where the global warming was coming out, I said to the technical office, we have to work on Erba Mate because will be the grape that give the root to something that is indigenous, is only for Franciacorta, and give the acidity that we will need in the future if the climate warming doesn't stop. So now we are working on Erba Mate. In this moment, maximum that we can use is 10%. But for Cadel Bosco speaking, we are just still in a study. So it's a project, it's not a reality today for Cadel Bosco. Some other producers have already started to use it. We are still in experimentation. Then we can see a little history. Franciacorta is the number 5 DOC in Italy in '67. So it's pretty old compared to the fact that we are a young generation, but in terms of DOC was one of the first. In the 90s, the Franciacorta decided to be alone. In '95, became a DOCG, and is the first DOCG for a wine with bubble. I don't say sparkling because Franciacorta is one of the 2 wines in Europe that is forbidden to be the appellation of spumante or vermoutheux. In Europe, all the wine must put on the front label the fact that they have bubble inside in order to help the consumer to know that they are buying something with bubble. There are 2 exceptions. One is northeast of Paris, that I will not mention, and the other one is Franciacorta, where it's forbidden for the French people to write vermoutheux and for the Italian to write spumante, because we are talking about a wine, because those 2 appellations doesn't want speak about the method, but they want to speak of the region, like a wine. So this is the DOCG that was the first in '95. And then these are the rules that briefly is the lowest production of grapes for hectare, one of the lowest pressing percentage, the second one, and the time of the yeast is the longest. So for a multi-vintage is 18 months, and for the reserve is 30 months. Now we speak a little bit of Cadel Bosco. Cadel Bosco start very young, 64. So in the wine business, we are baby because we have only 60 harvests behind us. And in the history take us to produce the first Franciacorta in the 70s. And in 79, we have the idea to take someone that have experience from France, who was André Dubois, to come to help us to take the culture that in those years in Italy was not too deep for the quality. So André Dubois was coming obviously from Champagne, and he's been with us for 11 years to take the culture of quality inside a country that was more dedicated to quantity at that time. So it was not a winemaker, was just a cellar master, but have eradicate the idea of the quality inside his life. Then there are other dates, but we will speak of these later. So these are a few stories of us. And obviously when you do wine, it's very important the people that you are lucky to meet. Those two people, for me, they was very important. So André Dubois was the first that I mentioned. Luigi Veronelli was the father of the Italian wine renaissance. And I was so lucky that he was living next to me. So for 20 years, he had been my father to make understand the philosophy to valorize the agriculture and not the cellar. So vineyard, 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 and in Ca del Bosco, we are very focused on the agriculture more than in the cellar, even if you will see in the cellar some crazy new things. Another person, very important, was Gandossi, that was a farmer that started with me to change the viticulture, and a man that probably you know very well, because in the United States have changed, in my opinion, the history of Napa. And this Andrei Chelichev, that was a friend, and not for consulting, but just for friendship, have worked with us in the 80, 81, 82, 83, and 84 to make the still wine. At Ca del Bosco, we produce some important still wine, and they born thanks to André that he stopped this kind of friendship. We still was friends. I have a contract to build a new winery in Italy called Ornellaia. So he started the Ornellaia project with the Harvest 85. That's what is Ca del Bosco in Franciacorta. Is one of the first winery. We started in 68. We own 724 acres in 11 different villages of Franciacorta, and we try to go higher in all the locations that are in altitude on the sea level. We have quite an old vineyard situation. The average is 28 years. We are organic certificate, but we don't put the green leaves on the label because I am a little against marketing and I don't like the green leaves because you can have great wine organic or terrible wine organic. You can have great wine conventional and terrible wine conventional. So it doesn't mean because have a green leaves that the wine should be great. So you can find our certification of organic on our website. Every year we publish the certification. And Ca del Bosco was the first vineyard to go back to plant 10,000 vines for hectare in the 70s when Alberello in the south of Italy was left to go to more intensive and productive way of production. Ca del Bosco has taken back the high density, and this is what makes a little bit the difference in order of the age of the vineyard, that they can become older and give the best fruit after 20 years because the production goes slowly reducing because the tree lose a little bit of his strongness and he produces less. Sorry for my English, is an English for a real farmer, even with the tie from Italy. So my English is terrible, so I hope you can understand me even if I speak in a mixed Italian English. So this is Ca del Bosco vineyard situation. How you see in the north part, we have what we call the highest vineyard, so where we keep the wine and the grapes, in order to get the consistency of the acidity and the pH that we need to make wine that mature for more than 10 years, like the one that you have in the glass today. And in Ca' Bosco, we have many innovations that are very important that you understand. I will be very fast. The first one is that when became organic, we was understanding that copper, that the residual are on the grapes, was not the best, not only for our stomach, but also for the aromatic in fermentation. So we need to take out the copper. So after thinking, we was to the conclusion that we have to wash and dry the grape. This is unique. Someone have joked for a year on Ca' Bosco, say they are stupid. Now they start to sell the machine to wash, because it's not only a question to take away the copper, it's the purity. The pollution today doesn't allow to put on the grapes any other thing than the grapes. So we need to have the purity. And the purity you can get only if you wash, you dry your grapes before pressing. So we have studied this in 2008 and in 2013 with this wine. So we start from our most important wine, not with the more safe, but with the most important, because we know that this was the solution to get the purity. The result of this is that we don't take away the lees. So all the lees stay on the wine, and we do a big batonnage every month on the wine in order to keep the substance, the most important part of the wine, in the wine, and not take away like we was doing before. Obviously, we reduce the SO2 quantity because we don't need. Because when the wine is clear and is pure, it doesn't have problem of infection, okay? So this is how we was doing before, and the next is what we do now. So all the grapes will go in fridge, then they are sorting, then they are washing, drying, and then pressing. Another thing, so this is, you can see the old way, and you see the defecation. And now we don't do anymore this. And we don't pump anymore the wine. All the wine are moved by gravity. So using all the sediment, okay? And we move the wine by gravity. The most important thing is the next one, and then we will finish, is how we disgorge. The degorgement is the most important, delicate time in the life of those wine, because you take bottles that stay 2, 4, like this, 10 years, and when you open and you pull out the sediment, the oxygen get in, and it go in a wine that have no protection. So most of the time, you add a lot of sulfite in order to stop the oxidation that you get. And we found this was a big mistake. So we study a new system where we protect with nitrogen the bottle, and at this point, we don't need to use any SO2 in order to protect the wine, because the wine have been in the nitrogen. And this is very important for the future of the wine, because the wine is more pure, and it doesn't have the sulfide nose, and have a longer life, because with no oxidation, the wine have the capability to mature for a longer time and keep the freshness. So this was very, very important, and we are quite proud, because this system that have changed a little bit is being used after us from some house in east of France, 10 years after that we start to do this. So we are quite proud that we are very young, but we have found out something new. In Italy, in Europe, in the world. We put the sulfite amount. United States say, no, it's difficult because the BATF will not accept and they will make problem to us. So they convince us not to put the sulfite level, but in all the world, we write the sulfite level in each bottle so the consumer know what it is. To be brief, normally, those kind of wine, they are on the market between 90 and 120 sulfite level, and we are between 40 and 50. So this is short, a little resume of Bosco. I have not boring too much you. Now we go on the wine, and Eric for sure will be a lot better in order to take you by hand and taste those wine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, I will say I am a qualified wine geek, so I actually thought that was really interesting. It's really actually amazing seeing the washing and drying process that they do and the care they take to make sure that the grapes are handled so gently to make sure there's absolutely no disruption of the actual skins or anything. It's really quite amazing. It's an operation that when you see it, it's awe-inspiring. Okay, so we are going to start, and what we're going to do is we're going to be starting from the youngest, and we're going to be working our way to the oldest. Maurizio is going to provide us with some just vintage data. And, again, we were talking, we don't want to tell you what you're tasting in the glass. It's not the kind of tasting I want this to be. I really want us to experience this together, and we can talk about the vintage, we could talk about how the wine came to be, and maybe some of the changes that took place. And we went through the history, but hearing it firsthand of certain things such as when these new principles were integrated, but also how things changed over time with the amount of dosage is something that's always really interesting to me as well. This wine is zero dosage. It's been zero dosage for how long now?
From 2008.
Yeah.
From Harvard 2008 is we don't add any sugar in their liqueur. So they are all dosage zero. And the previous layer that you have today, due to the fact that they have been disgorged, they have no dosage, also the old one.
Right. So, for anyone that doesn't know, this is the sugar that is added into the wine to balance it in the bottle, to find that balance after the secondary fermentation. That when you see a wine that says like a brut or an extra brut, just dictating the amount of sugar in the wine. And today, zero dosage has become a very popular thing, but it's very important to keep in mind that you have to have the right fruit harvested in order to make a successful zero dosage. You cannot just decide not to add sugar to make a zero dosage and think you're going to get a good wine.
And I have to add that Bosco was one of the first winery to introduce a diesel dosage in '78. At that time, no one was doing zero dosage. So we have an history, and most of the, the customer, the loyal customer, they recognize Bosco more on dosage zero than in other wine.
Can you tell us a little bit about the 2015 vintage?
Yes, now we go. So 15 was a average vintage in terms of production. So about, you have there about 75 ton, 7.5 tons, sorry, for hectare, 7,600 kilo. So that is, for us, is the average production. And those wine, how you can see, is most Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir is only 15%. We have some vineyards that are dedicated to Annamaria Clementi, but we harvest a little bit more of those vineyards, and they are fermenting separate. They finish the fermentation in used oak barrel, and all separate. And then when we do the assemblage, we decide if use some of them, all of them, or no one. Because in some winter, we have not produced Annamaria Clementi. So it's not mandatory that we produce every year. The harvest 15 was I tell before, a average quantity, and was ripe in a good time because we start early in August. You will see in all the vintage how it's changed the time of harvest. You will see the first wine that was harvested end of September, the last wine they are harvested in mid of August. So to see how it's changing the situation.
Well, I mean, I certainly see, like, with this wine, the 2015, I always think of it, it has a very prominent fruit profile. But in the same token, excuse me,
But in the same token, it has all the minerality that's coming from the soils that Maurizio was talking about earlier that really balance that fruit out, which really make this, it's a completely balanced wine, but it's just a baby. And you can obviously drink these early, but in the same token, you know, I think putting these away, even if you have them in your own cellar, not just buying back vintages, is a really fantastic thing about this wine. Sorry. And then when it comes to, say, 2013, so I mean, here I'm finding more of a rounder expression. I feel like, you know, the fruit's dialed back a little bit. It's a little bit darker, while the 15's punchier. Can you tell us a little bit about 2013?
Well, 13 was difficult because we have a late floraison, and so we should have harvest late, but unfortunately we have a big rain in mid of August, so we have to harvest early after the rain because the grapes can be compromised. So it was a very not easy harvest to do. The production was good, and how you can see here, the Pinot Blanc is more, because the Pinot Blanc is something that we use to give finesse to the wine, verticality, elegance, because sometimes Chardonnay is a little bit too fatty, too, let's say, tropical, and we need some verticality with Pinot Blanc. And the Pinot Noir, obviously, is always the shoulder of the wine that allows the wine to mature for year and year and year.
I mean, would you agree that the acidity is sort of dialed up in the 2013, a little bit more noticeable?
I believe, you feel it more.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, also, I find that gives me a lot of pleasure because on top of that, while, you know, the 13 is more focused on that strong saline character, that the acidity really refreshes the palate as you enjoy it. I mean, it's also important to keep in mind, so the current release of the Annamaria Clementi is 2016, correct?
16 is just arrived on the market, 16.
Right, so if you consider that, you know, this is a wine that is coming out 8 or 9 years post-vintage date. So in the market, you already have a wine that has been maturing on the leaves for an extended period of time and then released late. Okay, so let's see, 2011.
Again, this wine was mature later, so you can see that the harvest was September, and the season was difficult in the beginning, but fantastic in the end. So we have purity and a fantastic, and also in quantity was interesting because was generous. And how you can see here again, the Pinot Noir is low down, and the Pinot Blanc is more important because we found, when we do the assemblage, to get not consistency in the varietal, but to give to the wine the best that we can in the season. So we don't are looking necessarily to get consistency on the taste, but we try to do the best for the year for this wine. So the amount of grapes, how you can see, is changing in a very important way year by year, depending on the condition of the single varietal.
So now in this region, you know, I'm always talking about vintages from place to place. You're close, obviously you're close to Piedmonte. You know, I'm wondering though, from where you are, is it possible for people to make generalizations about the vintage, say to what Piedmont might experience, or if we're going to the east, it would be Veneto? I mean, is there a place that it's more familiar to?
There are some time something that is you can generalize, but sometimes you can generalize speaking of the still wine. So if you speak of red especially, we are very close with Piemonte. So, but when is a great year for the still wine is not necessarily a great year for Franciacorta, and the opposite. A great year for Franciacorta most of the time is not a great year for the still wine, because you have character that you need the ripeness more important for the still wine than for the sparkling. Too much ripe is potentially one problem. So we have to balance between the two. Even if all the grapes for the still wine are in different position, is more south exposure to get more sun, but we cannot generalize between Franciacorta and still wine. It's two different worlds.
And from the perspective of climate change in Franciacorta, you know, I think of 2011. I mean, I know we go back to say like 2003 was like a really big mark for Italy when it came to seeing the warming trends. But I only bring this up with 2011 being a vintage I think of as a warmer vintage, say in Piedmont. Do you find that harvests have been changed when it comes to harvest dates? Are you picking earlier?
Yeah.
Are you doing anything specific to like counteract the changes?
Is what I was telling before. You will see that more we go back with the vintage, more late was the harvest. So there is not organically, we are moving from mid-September to mid-August in 30 years. So we have lost 1 month in 30 years of change of harvest time. That doesn't mean that we harvest early, because if you harvest early, you will never make a great wine. You need the grapes ripe, but it's the maturation that is changed because the flower came out early. And so the grapes are ripe early. And in, like I see, from 80 to 2015 is only 35 years, if I don't mind, no, 25, 20, 45 years. In 45 years, you have missed 1 month changing of the harvest time, more or less. You will see later.
And is the Annamaria Clementi made in every vintage, or do you only make it in specific years?
We, on specific year, let's say 9 on 10. We produce 9 times on 10 harvests, the average in those years.
9 years out of 10 years.
Yeah. 8.5 probably. I am thinking the vintage not produce.
All right, so let's move on to the 2010.
Very poor in quantity, very difficult. We was, how you can see, only 6.4 ton. And there was a lot of, how you say, thunderstorm. So it was not easy to produce. And you can see here the percentage changed dramatically of the varietal between Chardonnay, Pinot Bianco, and Pinot Nero. You see the Chardonnay go down to 55 and the Pinot Bianco go up to 25 in order to look for more finesse and more elegant.
This is really special. This has an absolutely amazing finish on it, right? And you start getting into more of the secondary notes.
Now you feel the second aroma that in the first wine was more pure. Here, all the second aromatic come out.
And I think it's really important, guys, if you're able to keep a little bit of the wine in your glasses as we go forward, so you can then go back to the beginning and see where these wines start versus where they end up going to. But I certainly love it. It's got an almost like a raw almond richness on the palate here, and then it's just got that lasting fruit through the finish. 2010 is beautiful. And
remember, no sugar addition. Eh? All the wine doesn't have any support by a liqueur d'expédition. They are all pure. And you can feel the ripeness of the wine, even if they are vertical, but you don't need something sweet in your mouth. It's already, in my opinion, with the right ripeness.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. If you have the right ripeness in the grapes upon harvest,
You don't
and
need.
you have the right balance of acidity in the wine, you don't need the sugar added to the wine. Which brings us, as you were saying, the first vintage that you guys decided to do a zero dosage, which is 2008. So can you tell us a little bit about 2008?
Yeah, this is very important, this wine for me, because it was the first year where we was already in organic, and it's the first year where we wash and dry the grapes, and was the first year where we don't put a liqueur, and was the first year we don't add sulfite at degorgement. So it's a big change in our history, the 208, because it changed the way to work traditionally until this year. So what you will taste after now, but with the previous year, is the old way. And from 2008, you start the new wave of Cadel Bosco. Is how you say, when you turn, you make a tour and you change.
360, full turnaround? No.
Yes, something like this.
It's interesting. So many changes in just one vintage.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst for that?
Well, that most of the things happen by chance, but they happen all together, and we was happy that they happen. And 208 was a very rich in terms of production year, was a fantastic year in terms not only of quality, also on quantity, because the weather, the season finally, I call him major shareholder, the gentleman upstairs, was very generous, and so finally we can have an easy harvest in terms of quality and in terms of quantity with 208. That for me is remarkable because it's something that I am very, how you say, legato. I am very close with because represent a lot in our history.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's so lively. It's all still, it's still just so young. It's like a teenager, right? And now we're going to jump back, and I think the most amazing thing is first. Now we're going back to 2001, right? And I know that the lighting in this room is not the perfect lighting to be examining the color of wine, but the color on the 2001 is absolutely stunning. When you think about, I mean, that's amazing. 24-year-old wine. So, this is one of the wines that were specifically disgorged for this event?
Yes. Now, from 2001, except the 80, they have been open for this event specifically. They doesn't exist. We have a few number of bottles, and so from the 201 until the 86, they've been open express for this event. And 201 was very, very poor harvest. Our partner upstairs was not too generous and give us hard time. And so was a kind of a masterpiece to try to get a wine like this, because here you don't have all the innovation that we was speaking before. So you have sulfite at degorgement. In this case, we have degorged for you, so no addition. But this is the old history of Cadel Bosco. But I am very happy because I tried this wine with you today after many years, and I believe is in a very good shape.
I mean, the finish is ridiculous. I mean, this just goes on and on and on, and I like how it started to go more into more of like an apricot fruit. I mean, it's really pure. You're definitely starting to see a little bit of development where the fruit is more forward, but that finish just keeps on going on and on and on.
And invited to drink.
Oh, no, totally. I mean, it's sad because, and this is something we were talking about before starting this today, is that I wish that this tasting could have been significantly longer. They only gave us an hour time slot, but it would just be amazing just to sit with these wines. And this is a perfect example of a vintage that I could sit with this all night. Which actually leads me to more of a personal question. Is there a vintage that is your particular favorite from Conde Bosco?
In Annamaria?
In Annamaria, yeah.
Yes. The next wine, for me, have been the wine most important, not only in Franciacorta, even in other regions that make those kind of wine. 96 was impressive. And I hope it's still impressive tonight, too. So 96 was very, very poor, very concentrate, and I hope it's still in good shape. We will experiment now. Was probably one of the lowest production for hectare, but the quality was extraordinary.
Yeah, the florals on the nose have taken on more of a honeyed note. This is really pretty. I mean, also keep in mind, everyone, for me, this is not the ideal glassware to be exploring these wines either, but unfortunately, in tastings like this, you have to deal with what you have. I mean, I would love this in a large, bold glass.
I agree totally, but you don't feel to have a wine that is 30 years old. Absolutely. It's incredible how it's still, let's say, pure, no secondary aroma prominent, still you feel the fruit.
Yeah, the fruit is right there, absolutely. And there's this gorgeous citrus tone on the finish that just keeps you wanting to go back to the glass. Now, this is beautiful. Hopefully they left us a bottle for later.
Yes, for later. We have to steal one if they have. I don't know.
This is beautiful.
It's remarkable, yes.
Okay, so let's move to the 1993. We are now going back over 30 years.
Again, another difficult year. Very, very difficult, with a lot of, how you say, pourriture, mold, when you have the botrytis.
Oh, botrytis.
Botrytis.
Okay.
So it was not easy.
Okay.
A lot of selection.
So was the botrytis, was it a very rainy season? Or?
Yes. When you have humidity and rainy season, and we start already not to use any chemical. And so it's difficult in the sorting. And you see that the production was one of the lowest, only 5,000 kilo for hectare is very low. But the result, again, was important. 93 is one of the best.
So at this time, say 1993, what are the average age of the vines? Would you know that kind of information?
Well, we start to plant in 68, and for Annamaria, we always take the oldest vine. So if you count 68 to 93, is about 28, 25 years age of vine. It's important to know that at that time, there was, we start to plant separate Chardonnay and Pinot Blanc, because before there was a confusion because they mix the nursery, they don't know the difference between Pinot Blanc and Chardonnay. Think how was Italy in those years, and so there was plant together. And so it was not possible to harvest separate. In 93, we have already the separation, but the two previous years, 80 and 86, was vineyards that have the same varietal together.
Forgive me, I forgot to spit that one.
I honestly have not split once until now.
That is pretty fantastic. Wow. I mean, it is interesting when you think about how you have years that are so difficult that can result in such magical wines. That is absolutely something that we find quite a bit.
I love 93.
That is gorgeous. I mean, let's just reflect on this for just a minute, everyone, as they're pouring our next two wines. Because here we are, we started in 2015, and just think about how vibrant and pure this 93 and this 96 are. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And I don't want to step up on the soapbox necessarily, but I'm constantly defending Franciacorta to sparkling wine drinkers of other regions, and constantly singing its praises. I'm that guy that comes to your house for dinner with a bottle of Franciacorta, and everybody's just like, oh my God, this is really good. And it's like, yeah, why aren't you buying this? And I really, when we started talking about tastings that we could do at Icons, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this event, because I really wanted to share with everyone just how magical these wines are. And just, I mean, this is a perfect example. More than 30 years old and this vibrant. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so 1986.
So first of all, you will see the bottle is different because at that time was not called Annamaria Clementi. Annamaria Clementi, that is the name of my mother, by the way. So I dedicate the most important wine to the founder of Bosco. And at that time was a different shape, was a normal bottle, and was just called millesimato, but with the same philosophy, the same vineyard, and always 10 years on the east. At that time, this wine is the last, no, it's not the last, but one of the last harvests done by Dubois, so with the French gentleman. And so most of the new technique, they was not here, but this gives you an idea of the potential of Franciacorta, of those vineyards, because you can feel, even with those here, the potential that the wine have to mature, to increase the quality with the time. The time is not dangerous, is an opportunity. And this what make, in my opinion, Annamaria Clementi a special wine, because more time you keep the wine, more surprise, positive surprise you will get. So this have been disgorged for the event. Again, at the time he have some dosage. Today he have no dosage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so incredibly balanced. It's beautifully round. There's definitely a fruit component. I mean, we have not found a single one at this point that does not show a fruit component. In fact, I think this is also a good example of how these wines mature. I think that we find less fruit in the newer vintages than we find now in the older vintages, and it's just beautiful to see, like, this is how this wine is going to mature, that it's actually going to open and blossom over time, not necessarily close up and just become dusty. And typically if I'm going to be tasting a champagne of this age, I would be thinking of dusty flowers and just all kinds of like dried spices and things like that. But no, these are vibrant and fresh and full of fruit.
And you still keep the fruit.
Still keep the fruit.
This is unique, in my opinion.
Yeah. And in this year also, there's a significantly smaller percentage of Chardonnay.
Yeah. And you see here the difference also of the varieties. So the Chardonnay was very low and the Pinot Bianco was very important quantity. At that time, we will use 100% fermenting from zero in the barrel. Mm-hmm. Today, we start the fermentation, the stainless steel, we just finish in barrel. At that time, the juice was going directly in the barrel. That is more risky because if it doesn't start, so it's more appropriate to begin the fermentation together, divide for variety, divide for vineyard, and then when it starts, go down during the fermentation to finish in the barrel. At that time, the juice was going directly in the barrel.
Beautiful. So, by a show of hands, how many people here have drinking a Franciacorta from 1980? Oh, well, you work for Bosco. And this guy didn't raise his hand.
Yes.
I'm sure he's had it too. I certainly haven't. So this is really exciting for me. The 1980 Annamaria Clementi.
So this is particular why we was crazy enough to put on the market this wine last year in a very small amount, but this wine have been on the market in 24, 5,000 bottles that we have keep from the 80. So this is the bottle RS, recently sboccata, recently disgorged. So this wine have been 42 years on the East and is gone on the market. So I believe no product in the world have been for sale, regular, on the market after 43 years. And so we was nuts enough to keep the bottle and do the dégorgement in 23 and put on the market on 24.
So do you plan on doing more library releases? Because I can tell you this, the 93, the 96.
Yes, but not with the same, unfortunately, amount. Here we have 5,000 bottles. Here we will plan to come out with some of them, but maximum 2,000 bottles. Never again 5,000 like with the 80. So the 80 is the only wine that was on the market last year and was sold out very fast. But this wine is not the gorge for today. This wine have been the gorge, if I well remember, in the end of 23, in August 23, because it was on the market in the Christmas 23.
It's beautiful. You know what's also really funny, everyone, is that when we were talking with the Psalms earlier today, we were talking about opening these bottles and when we should open them, and some people were concerned that if we open them too soon, then they might lose some of their bubbles, they wouldn't be quite as lively, but because of them being old. But I mean, think about this. This is so young in the glass. Obviously, there is absolutely no doubt that this wine is still so alive. It's certainly starts showing more of those tertiary notes on the bouquet for me, but certainly not on the palate. On the palate, this is fresh as a daisy. It's still vibrant. And the color,
yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous how pure this color is and how bright this color is.
And on the nose, remind more a wine than a sparkling wine. I don't know if you have a nose is incredible.
Well, on top of using a larger bowl glass, I'm also a very big fan of opening a bottle such as this or any of these wines and leaving a little bit in the bottle for the next day to kind of go flat.
Yes.
And just drink it in that state. Because in many cases, you feel like you're, am I allowed to say white Burgundy? You feel like you're just drinking white Burgundy. It's pretty amazing.
A good white Burgundy.
A good white Burgundy, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we do have a couple of minutes here. Does anyone have any impressions that they want to share with us or any questions? We don't have a lot of time.
On the 86, was that, because I know you said Sur Point on the 1980, was the 86 also Sur Point for a time, or was it all Sur Latte?
Two of those wine, I don't remember the harvest, sorry. I must check. Two of those wine have been riddling 3 months ago, to 2.5 months ago, because all the other, they was Sur Point, but two of those wine have been riddled because someone asked me, can we add another 2 vintage? So we don't have the vintage Sur Point, so we have to riddling. So I don't remember which of those wine, but 2 vintage have been riddled how you say, riddle?
Yeah.
Not glasses, just 2 months and a half ago. But I don't remember which. The other wine, there was all sur point.
The 86 was that sur point?
Yes.
Yeah, we
And it's a very good question because make a big difference if you keep your wine sur point or if you keep horizontal in the aging process. More you keep sur point, more the wine can age better. Because I have not told you, but it's very important. 80 and 86, there was not cork with crown, but the first corkage was with cork. The other, they are all cork, the first with the metal cork. The first cork, I would say the first tirage, crown cap. But 80 and 86, the first corker with the cork.
Beautiful. Was there anyone else that had any insights that they wanted to share? Any questions for Maurizio? Yes, John. That's okay. I think he's.
Pinot Blanc for Bosco is very important. We are in Franciacorta, the biggest Pinot Blanc hectare proportion to all the region. We believe in a lot in Pinot Blanc because, like I was telling you in the beginning, Pinot Blanc, when you have a year that is concentrate, that is too hot, give to the wine the verticality, the freshness, in order to get the elegance and the balance that sometimes Chardonnay is too opulent, too rich, and you lose a little bit of finesse, of elegance, because the wine are a little bit fatty, and they lose elegance, but they lose also aging potential. I will not say age, that is not the correct word, but maturation potential. Pinot Blanc had for sure the capability to mature better when you have a rich vintage, rich in terms of sugar.
Well, I'd like everyone to join me in thanking Maurizio for joining us today and sharing these wines with us.
Was a beautiful experience for me too.
As I said earlier, once in a lifetime experience. I'm so happy that it happened at Vinous Icons of Italy. Thank you guys for sharing this with us. Enjoy the tasting upstairs, and I hope that Franciacorta now has a new special place in your heart. Cheers.
And I hope you have the opportunity when you travel to Italy. We are 1 hour from Milano. Take the opportunity to visit, because it's not only a wine region, but it's a beautiful region. And Bosco also have some connection with art, and you will be in a special place. So if you have the opportunity to travel between Milan and Venice, don't stop to Autogrill to eat a sandwich. It's more simple to come to Bosco. You will be a lot better than in Autogrill.
And if anybody needs us, we'll be in the corner with the Bosco bottles. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.